beautifully, wonderfully. I mean, with curiosity. And, you know, one thing I'll say about us as Black folk and African people, we love each other. And we love to see, it's hello, it's greetings, it's you don't just walk past each other,
Yeah,
you say
we're
hello.
all close.
Yeah, and even though I'm clearly, a brony or foreigner, a brony is, I think, the word for foreigner. That's not said in a negative way, that's just saying, hey, like I'd be walking down the street and a car would go by and kind of slow down and go, hey, a brony, hey! And it wasn't, I went with two friends who are from Ghana. All right, thank you. I went with a friend who is from Ghana. We traveled together with him, my daughter, and myself. And we met his best friend there, and his best friend was like our, sort of our tour guide, right? We wanted to ensure that he was with us and experienced it with us. And so I was able to understand from a local perspective what these interactions meant and what was happening. Like when somebody said, hey, hey, Brody, I went, what did they say? What does that mean? What am I experiencing right now? But you can also feel just in the words and in the essence that it's love, and they are truly happy to see you. So yeah, I would say just receive with love and curiosity.
Did you went all over Ghana?
So I mainly stayed in Accra and the surrounding areas, and then we did travel to Cape Coast, which was about a 4-hour drive. It would have been about 2 to 2.5, but only half of the journey is paved. And the other half is dirt road, and you can't go at 60 miles per hour with the road that's not paved because it will damage the car.
Exactly.
And so we went maybe 30 miles per hour for about 2 hours on an unpaved road. So it's about a 4-hour journey to Cape Coast, and that's where the Elmina dungeon is. People call it a castle, and I choose to call it a dungeon.
That's where the slaves were put before they.
Yes, they were captured from many places in Africa, and made the journey throughout Africa to get to certain areas where they had specific structures like Elmina, where they would hold the Africans in bondage until it was time for them to move them to wherever they're the places where they wanted them to be then enslaved. And this could take months and months that they would be in these dungeons. And here's the unfortunate, all of it's unfortunate, but one of the things that really just blew my heart to pieces was if you were an African person who arrived at the dungeon just after the boat had left, the last one, you would likely have to wait 3 to 4 months and be in a room no bigger than that office with about 20 other captured and stolen Africans with no beds, a hole in the wall where they throw food in at you, no ventilation, and it's 90 degrees every single day. You'd have to wait in those conditions, and a lot of them died just being in there, waiting for the next boat, which could take 3 to 4 months.
And let me remind you that they were Africans before they came here. When they got here, they were called slaves.
Exactly.
So they were enslaved in America. They were not slaves in Africa and then brought to, oh, we need 50 of your slaves. It wasn't that. It was 50 of your Africans. And then when they got to Africa, when they got to America, they became enslaved. So we use that word enslaved.
That's a question I'm curious, I'm sorry. We basically enslaved our people, and basically we conquered the tribes and stuff, and brought them into slavery, basically.
Well, basically, we didn't, okay? It was a supply and demand trade. So if somebody is coercing you to produce the people,
Or die.
you better get them there, because they're gonna kill you if you don't do what they tell you. And once you got them there, they put you in the boat too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
Oh, they grab you too, huh?
oh yeah.
it's a means to an end.
So, you know, it's the narrative we were given. We have to
Recycle.
unlearn it
Yeah.
and also tease out why we were told certain things. Because it fixed an idea about who we are as people out here who have no home.
Mhm.
And it made us hate each other, and it made us have a narrative that, okay, well, Africans from Africa hate black Americans
Yes.
in America, because that's what that's what I have learned, right?
Yes, yes.
But, of course, even from your experience, you can see that, like, no, like, they love you. When you
Yeah.
said, I'm back,
Right.
you know, that's from your video, it looks like that's how they treated you the whole time from your interactions that we could see. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't treat you like, oh, you were an American.
Right,
You know?
right, and if you recall, I said often that we are one. And, sort of prefaced in the beginning with, you know, we have been indoctrinated, and I think I said we have been given, what I meant was we have been indoctrinated, we have been conditioned
Willie Lynch.
yes, we have been conditioned to think a certain way. And for a long time, we have used language like slaves, like the slaves and things like that. And I choose to change that intentionally. I might slip up every once in a while, but I am intentionally changing my language around, thank you, how I speak about African people, black bodies, things like that, and folks who were enslaved because they were doctors and scholars and mothers and fathers and African and beautiful human beings. And I think the original people of this earth, before we were stolen and taken. And so I'm very intentional around my words on how do I speak about enslaved Africans. And then, there's a lot of times there is argument around, you know, who enslaved who. And one of the things that my understanding is that, you know, the U.S., the way that enslavement happened and the institution of slavery and everything thereafter, there is nothing that has been that large, systematic, and generationally lasting anywhere else in the world. And in Africa, if there were, you know, contentions between, you know, different tribes or, you know, different affiliations, and there was, you know, a capturing or a whatever, that was usually something that was connected to land, it was connected to resources, it was something that was generationally understood that these are the channels we will go through, or you know, or these are the things that could possibly happen. But it honored Africans in their space and place and what they needed. And yeah, there's tribal wars and things like that all over the world. But this institution of slavery is by far
The worst.
the
Yeah.
the most detrimental, and the worst that we've seen. And it still presents so many problems for us, the descendants, right, today. And why there are movements or engagements or initiatives like DEI. To me, it feels like an evolution of trying to gain back some kind of, you know, I won't even say equality, but like equity or recognition that we are human and that we deserve to be seen as such, and to reclaim that humanity. And humanity, I use that intentionally, because the opposite of humanity to me is that we are seen as animals. And so the more humanity we can bring back to society in terms of how they regard Black folk, the more we are stepping away from what they erected, during the times of slavery. Many other countries and racial groups and things like that, they have harmed other people. We know that, right? But I think the U.S. is one of the only, who has not acknowledged what they have done, and they have not repaired, and they have not moved forward from that in full acknowledgement. So I tend to struggle with the thought of, we've enslaved our owner or things like that. There's lots of nuance to that and other little truths that I think that it's good to kind of, to challenge and be curious around.
But the United States of America has acknowledged a wrong, and they paid the Jews. The Jews got paid. I also want to say, I felt your energy. You clearly stated that you wanted to go back. As if your soul was lacking something.
Yes.
And you showed that when you got there. My final question is, I'm curious about the golden stool and the golden sword. If you can share anything on it.
Say that last part again,
The golden sword. The golden sword
And the golden stool. Did you learn about that?
I didn't learn much about that while I was there, so I can't really speak to it. But yeah, I can speak to what you said prior around feeling, like I was looking for something, or like, my soul or my spirit. I needed that to feel that wholeness, and that's very true. One of the things that I intentionally added into the film was that, I'm very intentional around surrounding myself with my Africanity or African life, and learning as much as I can, being as far away from as I am, and I don't even mean by distance, I mean by generation, time, space, by influence, by oppression and structures. I mean distance in that sense, right? Like I have been distanced, even by my own internalized oppression, right? That I've had to do internal work to dismantle. I am so intentional around bringing in African principles and life. And what I feel like brought that full circle and that wholeness was to then be there. And not only be there, but create a plan to continue to go back and eventually be there for as long as I can.
I think Paul and Zicomo had questions.
Yeah, I have so many questions though, because I'm a filmmaker also. So I'm gonna use Final Cut, use Adobe, systems. Are you gonna just try and get this in other film festivals? What's the future for you? And most though, I want to thank you for bringing your daughter, because that scene in the dungeon to her, I mean, I'm sure that's life changing. Amazing. So I want to congratulate you. Excellent job. Yeah.
Thank you so much. In terms of the film, I did it really just to bring it here to Evergreen, and that was the initial intention, because this is the place that has continued to nourish me in my journey.
It was an assignment.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
She's simplifying it a little bit, but for me, I really wanted to bring this in and sort of give as a give back, right? Because I honestly, truly from my heart, I've never had such a holistic learning experience in terms of who I am and what I'm seeking going forward and back out into the world. Like I've been a DEI professional for almost 15 years, right? I'm well into mid-career in a leadership position, but it was imperative for me to come here to a place like Evergreen that gives us the fuel, gives us the love and pours into us with that African-centered lens. I needed it, and so I brought it here. And that was the idea, and yes, it was an assignment. And, but I haven't thought further about, film festivals, but I do see it as, I'm completely open to that.
Okay.
For sure, so,
We should
Yes,
talk.
let's-
okay,
Let me not forget to talk to you about that.
okay.
Tacoma, did you have a question?
It was along the lines of what he said, just talking about baby girl and
Yeah.
wondering what kind of conversations y'all had while you were there, or once you got back, you know, seeing that it was a, you know, deeper than words experience for her. By the time she had begun processing some of it, what were some of the things that she talked about or that y'all talked about together?
Yeah, one of the first things that really came up for her, and that was just, you know, it blew my body back, was, I said, well, what made you cry? What's happening here? And she said, something told me to get out of there. Something told me I had to get out of there. And I said, well, in what way? Like, was it too hot, or, you know, what? She said, no, I just know that this was a bad place, and I know that somebody's telling me that this is a bad place. And she said, Mama, and I touched the wall, and it felt hot, like electric.
This is where the slaves were.
Yeah, yeah.
And how long was your daughter?
She's 8. Yeah, and this was just last April, so she's still 8. She'll be 9 in March. She'll be 9 in March. So yeah, she had just turned 8, maybe a month prior. So yeah,
She said something told her to get out of there.
something told me to get out of there. Yeah, something told me. I didn't want to get. And as we got about halfway through, is when she started to really, and she was shaking too. And you couldn't really see it well on the film, because our friend Seth, he was the gentleman that had the black shirt on with the aliens on it, that's our dear friend. He would often just pick her up and just hold her, you know, as we were walking through, and just give her, you know, he grew up in Ghana, and they have their ways of soothing children. He was soothing her in a way that I was just like, oh God, I just want to be here, you know. So there was many times where she was trying to, I think, metabolize her feelings, and she didn't know what to do with them. And so reflecting afterwards, she really just, you know, age appropriately said that was heavy. It was very heavy. And she had questions around, well, why didn't they just escape altogether? And I think what she meant is like an insurrection, you know, like why didn't they just all? And I tried as best as I could to kind of, and age appropriately, speak about the power imbalances, and also just the trauma of it all, and probably the disbelief. You know, I couldn't, if I were, we know what folks are capable of now, but then, you know, as an African who was minding their own business, living, like, what's happening here? We're gonna be here for a day, 2 days, like, you know, there could have been a lot of, I tried to explain to her, there could have been many barriers culturally, many barriers to understanding the reality of what was going on, and then just simple numbers, gun power, all the things, right? And so I tried to explain to her that they were overpowered. They were taken in a way that is inhumane, and yeah, and this is why we continue to honor our ancestors, and she knows what that means in our house. So.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, did you see the documentary called Bound, African versus Afro-Americans? It came out like in the 2000s, a long time ago. But it talks about the fact
We
that,
have talked about bringing here to tell the community to come.
yeah,
Yeah, so
Bound.
that's a good idea.
yeah, Bound, African
So
versus
is that on
Afro-Americans.
YouTube, or is that just your personal video?
This is a personal video. The person that I traveled with, his name is Neil Kaija, and he's from Ghana, but he's also a filmmaker and photographer. And he helped me put this film together. So as we traveled, he made sure to capture as much footage as he can, while also enjoying being home, right? And so he helped me put that together. And I don't think we put it on YouTube yet, but
If you
it should end up there.
talk about
Yeah.
that so that you don't
Yeah, little
give
spots.
yourself festivals.
Right, don't put it on YouTube.
Go ahead, Ray
I
Charles.
have a question. Do you know anything about that portrait? What year it was built? Who built it? Why it was originally built?
What was
You know,
built?
that type of.
Plumbing?
The
I don't
castle,
know what it's
the,
called.
I mean,
The dungeon, but on top
Yeah.
of it was fortress or whatever it was called.
yeah,
Castle.
I cannot remember the details of
Most
that.
of them in Africa were built by the Portuguese.
Portuguese, definitely that.
And they have the same design.
Oh, yeah.
They are not just in Ghana, there's at least 7 or 8.
So the Portuguese built it, and the Portuguese had the Africans in slavery at the time.
They were considered the first enslavers, late 1400s, they built it. But, you know, I say they built it, but you know it was built by Africans.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was just them coming, this must
Saying,
be
yeah,
built.
pick this up,
Because they were
pick this rock up.
they were coming as missionaries. We gotta be clear, sorry, I'm not gonna step on any toes around religion, but religion played the major role in the beginning, in the contact between Europeans and Africans. And so they began to get out whatever you knew, this is what it is, and now we are in charge of you.
Yeah,
And the building of the dungeons were part of that process.
and then many other, countries used it as well later on, right? The English used it, many other people they were already there, right? There were already well-oiled machines, especially as we think about 1619 and beyond for us, right? Many other, terrorist organizations used it as well, used the castles, but the Portuguese.
So now I take it it's being used for museum only, or is it people
Yes.
living in it, or?
No, it's purely
It's actually considered a UNESCO,
World Heritage.
World Heritage Site.
Yes.
Now it's a protected site.
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Question.
that's a good question.
Our alumni, I forget your
Oh,
name.
hi.
Sorry? Anastasia, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's what I was gonna kind of close with, so thank you for that question. So, what I have endeavored to do in a way that, because again, we are in some really hot political times. Within our organization, we're feeling it, right? And we're being very cautious and careful to keep ourselves protected in terms of, the way that a credit union works. It's a cooperative, it's a not-for-profit, which kind of is in between a non-profit and for-profit. And we are being very cautious in the ways that we're doing things, but we are still very, very committed and open even that this is the route we're going. So the way that I have sort of implemented this in my work is just to really understand the systemic impacts of all of this, and also making the ties and understanding the ties that I see in real life today that are something that was erected during that time, right? And understanding that this is a structure, it's a structure, right, that is the container that's making this continue to work, and this meaning marginalization and inequity, right, in the workplace, and then the systems within, right, the structure. So you've got the structure itself, and then you have the workings, like imagine all of the little machines that are working. And so my job is to understand what points of the structure are no longer functional. If we're thinking about everyone, we're bringing everyone in from the margins, how do we start to dismantle that in a way that people understand their role in it? First, their role in upholding it, changing their mind around that, and then their role in dismantling it, and then also looking at systems. What are these systems that we have? Are they reminiscent of the systems and structures that we've had that have been up for centuries that have continued to harm? And then how do we start to break down those systems? How do we build something completely new? Change is really, really, really hard, especially in organizational structures where they have a bottom line or a margin that they want to achieve, right? But my thought is, if you have a completely new structure or a completely new way of doing work, then change seems a little easier and can be more understood and at least endeavored upon. So my goal and my mission is to not necessarily expose, because again, I'm trying to be careful in corporate world, but is to build, rebuild, or completely build, over, and start to implement new ways of work and new structures through which, we do the work and how we serve the communities, the members, and things like that. And we have to have that lens. We have to have the trauma-informed lens. We have to have the lens of understanding the systems that did keep people out and continue to marginalize, and never do that again, right? Because otherwise, and it was, you and I had this conversation, otherwise we just continue, we pick it up, we move it somewhere else, and we just do that same thing over again, right? But if we break it down, get rid of it, start over with what we know is an inclusive and it brings people in, right? That to me is the end goal, and is that for me the end-to-end thinking around this is what it was, this is what it is now, and way over here is what it should look like. And we all kind of have to get together and I don't want to say roll in the same direction, because that doesn't sound good after we talked about slave ships. Roll in the same direction. So yeah, long answer, but I think that's kind of the way that I wrap my head around it on today. Yeah, thank you.
And it has changed some of your DEI presentations.
Absolutely, it has. It's given more of a trauma-informed lens, which I think is also really critical to any DEI endeavor. Any time you are trying to include and build equity, we need to understand that as we come into these spaces, it needs to be trauma-informed. It's got to be trauma-informed. And it must be, everyone must everyone must come in with agreements.
Right.
And continue to agree with those agreements. And that's, I think, part of being trauma-informed. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey to apply this to work life. It's new,
Right.
because I'm now looking at it a little bit more radically. Or a lot, and I just keep it in my head a little bit. And yeah.
Also mentioned Dr. Greg Carr. He's an African study out of Howard. And every Saturday morning he has a conversation with Karen Hunter, who's a sister who's also a publicist, so she's written a bunch of books. But I highly recommend everybody go to their website, which is Narrative with a K. It's membership joined, but yeah, they have all the information. They have digitized books. Every Monday night, Dr. Carr has In Class with Carr, and during the discussion on Saturdays, if a topic comes up, he'll go to the book and pull it out. I mean,
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy, so highly
I
recommend
know what
him.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Well, I wanted to say, I'm thankful that there's two things that stood out with that you said, in the beginning, that it's coming around full circle. And then you also said daughter, but especially the ones that were empowering me. I could see that she was so empowered by that.
Yes.
And then Brother Ray said, and I agree with him, is that they live better there than we do here.
Mhm.
Even the food you can see looks better, it
Yeah.
just looks fresher.
The
And
diet,
the
yeah.
people, like, I love how the women culturally, and I would love how to learn how to do this, but how they were walking around with the big baskets on their heads. and stuff like that. I love that. And then I also love how you keep connecting it back and bringing it back. And then I will also say that when I think about the word ancestral, like, it's always been, it can kind of be taught in a negative way, but I love when it's taught in a way that's culturally connected, but then also, like, there's no way that we can live now without referring back to our ancestors for anything. And that's just a fact, right? And I think I'm learning that more and more in my spiritual walk, because you can be very confused with your identity. That's what I wanted to say that it spoke to. I believe that it coming around full circle for you was part of your quest in identity, right? Because I know that for myself, I look for that as well. So it inspired me for two things. One, I would love to visit Africa, right? And then another one, I would love to visit Spain, because that's a part of my cultural background. So those two things. And then I was thinking, like, how could us as students, because I know that you're still a student, even though you might not be attending, and you're still a student of life, right?
Life, yeah.
And so I'm like, how can we incorporate those kind of things to help us in space, to create spaces like this? Because I am so thankful that I stayed for this, you know, so that I could be able to see through your lens, and it inspired me for my own journey. You know what I mean? So I'm so thankful that you could share this with us. And then I will also add that your babies and old people are closer to God than anyone. So they can feel, and she has discernment. That's what I see.
Yeah.
Your baby girl got some discernment.
Yeah.
And I'm just so thankful that you had your friend and your tour guide to like help you navigate through those moments. And I love the freedom that I seen you have. Like, that's so beautiful. You didn't, I mean, just like oppression has a language, or just like oppression has a look, so does freedom.
Yeah.
And so does self-awareness, and so does
Talk to 'em.
just all those things. And I know that those are things that are contagious.
Yeah.
Like, the more that you share this, because I'm glad that you said not yet. Like, your film festival, not yet. YouTube, not yet.
Yeah.
Because this is bigger than you. I think the spoken word artist said it earlier, not to be on a
Caution.
because he said about micro and macro level of
Yes.
thinking.
Yes.
And what
Internal
you
and
did, you exposed a world and your testimony on a different level that it has to be shown outside of this room. It has to be shared outside of this room, because, I mean, it's not easy to inspire people, you know what I'm saying, through things like that. Because, you know, we see a lot. It's different if you can personally connect it, or if you have a face that you can connect it to. So I just want to say, I appreciate you for sharing that.
Thank you.
That is
Thank you
amazing
so
give
much.
back.
Yeah.
Thank you for that give back.
So much,
for all of us.
I really,
more
really,
questions.
yeah, hold on one second.
Well, actually,
She wants to
I want to
respond.
respond real quick. Thank you, first of all, so much for that and for the give back. I received it with just full love and full heart. Bringing my daughter there, I think, was the best decision I've ever made. And, you know, she knew and she knows. One thing that, you mentioned the word ancestral, and how it can kind of be seen as negative or positive. I think one of the most radical things that we can do as African people and African descendants is to start to bring back in the absolute criticality of having your ancestral lineage very clear to you, who you come from, but not just that, but bringing them into your life into your decision-making, into your ritual, into how you come into space with your family, with your friends. When I think about, I think it's such a radical move to reclaim our Blackness, our Africanness, and who we are, because the reason why we may think in ways of like, oh, ancestors, they're just dead, right? No, they are here, they are with us, they're in this room right now, and when we were stolen, they did their well best to take our most powerful, most giving asset away from us, and that is our ancestral knowledge and our ancestral intelligence. And so to bring that back and to re-implement it into your everyday life, whether that's meditating and visualizing a loved one who has passed, or Dr. King, who is a beloved and sacred ancestor of ours, whether you're honoring him on this holiday, whether you every day or every other day or every Sunday, you light a candle for somebody who's moved on, or I have a decision to make, and I want to call on my ancestors to help me make this decision. And you go into meditation and you think about it, and you bring in that energy. Whatever that looks like for you is a radical move in reclaiming your ancestral life, reality, your lineage, your power is in our connection to the ancestors, which they couldn't understand because they couldn't see and they couldn't understand death, and death is not final, there's no finality to it. It's a transition. And to me, they become our sacred ancestors, and they do some of their most powerful work from the other side.
And are guided through the Creator. I mean,
And
this
are guided
is not
through the Creator.
bigger than the Creator, this is the Creator's work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another reason why I say we are one, because that is the connection, the Creator, those of us having this earthly experience right here in the present moment, our ancestors, nature, right? The moon, everything, the universe, and it is all one. Our ancestors are so important in that oneness. Yeah, so thank you so much for that.
Okay, you had a final
I was
question.
just gonna ask, the baskets that the women have on their head, how are they designed? Does it sit like a hat, or is it flat?
Yeah,
Did
so
you try?
I did not try, because that is something that you want someone to help you to train to do over time. Usually there's a wrap first that they put on their head. They put a wrap on their head that it's like it's like in a container shape. And then it's not just a basket, it could be some of them had stacks and stacks and stacks of laundry. We're talking pounds. Could be up to 100 pounds.
So men and women.
Men and women both do that.
Mostly women.
Mostly women, yeah.
And they use actually banana fiber, creates a ring, and you make it like a weaving, then you put it on your head. And the girls will practice this from early ages.
Yeah.
Just like we do books on the head when you do,
Balance.
The etiquette
what they
training,
call etiquette training.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's how they practice, and so you have to cultivate, the ability to do it. But obviously, you have not read my book. You didn't mention that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Oh, I gotta be right there, put that in there.
Some phrases from.
She alluded to it,
I alluded
not
to
really.
it. I alluded to it. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I didn't try. It was one of the first things I was so curious about, because I just saw it as a superpower, right? Like, look at us, and here, I think we're subjected to a sedentary life. They don't have a sedentary. These women were holding hundreds of pounds on their necks with their babies on their back, a bag in their hand, and just moving and going, and had no problem, with that. And so for me, I wanted to be respectful of how that is cultivated and how that is something you learn over time. But I was in awe of it, and I really do hope to learn one day.
Well, Sashim, this is Rich, and you can see, it can